let's get into this November recap. And so we got a couple of things that we did in November that we're going to talk about here, and then we're going to get to some of those much vaunted questions that we talked about before. So, November 3rd, a year out from Election Day 2026, and the day before Election Day 2025. We got together at one of our favorite places, Maggie's Farm. It's a business that we've supported and has been supportive of us. Is a great place, great food, great drinks, great people, and we had some of our supporters there. We had a nice dinner. We talked about this concept of the next year is going to be really busy, and we talked about public financing, and we heard why people were there. We had a great night. I think one of the best things about it was the custom drinks that we had. We had a mocktail that was called the Owen and a cocktail that was called the Andy, and we had vegan food, meat food, everything. It was just nice, inclusive, and a great way to celebrate with our friends and family as we thought about a year. Being a year away from Election Day. It feels like it's hard to remember that was this month, but it was, and we had some great times there, and we're going to be trying to do events like that all over the state in the future. What did you think about that event, Owen?
Yeah, people didn't want to leave. People were having a good time. We kind of they opened, first of all, Maggie's Farm on Hartford Road opened for us, which was really thoughtful and appreciated. And the staff was having a good time. Attendees were having a good time. It did not, if I may say so, feel like a traditional fundraiser. It wasn't icky. I mean, some of my longtime organizer friends said, "Oh, this was a fundraiser. I thought we were just supposed to come and buy food and have a good time. I'll get you a donation my next paycheck." So I think that's a sign of how we're doing things differently. This is not an extractive campaign. This is not a transactional campaign. This is a community building and a movement building campaign. And folks are developing new skills. You mentioned Christy developing those skills. People are applying skills through their work. So some of these graphics in the photo booth were set up by my wife, Marion, who runs her own small business and is a musician, a singer. And so we're seeing people apply these skills that they have in professional contexts and activism contexts for the first time in some cases to an electoral campaign. And that, I think, is what is going to help us meet some of our goals, whether it be fundraising, participation in the debates, is folks who saw electoral campaigning as something that other people did, saw fundraising as something someone else was involved with, but wasn't their thing, saying, actually, this is the first campaign that I actually want to donate to. I think, you saw some of Dana's friends were feeling that way, right, Andy?
Yeah. And, so next week we're going to get together with a group of folks and we're going to talk about how people who support us can support us, how they can ask their friends to support us. It's easy enough for you and I to be like, well, we know all the arguments about why third parties are good and what we're doing here. But I think for folks that are new to this can be kind of daunting because there's a real social isolation, especially in a place like Baltimore, that occurs when people, are not Democrats, right? 80% of folks are Democrats here, and there's a thing that can happen where you say, "Well, I'm supporting the Green Party candidate," and people can look at you and be like, "Really?" And I think having these conversations with folks, getting an opportunity for people to get together and talk about these things, creates real opportunity for folks to learn how it is to talk about this stuff, because there's so much social pressure around accepting the two-party system as the best we can do, that I think it's useful to have events like this. And so what I would say here is, if you have a place near you, we love this place, it's in our neighborhood, it's a place we go to all the time. If you have a place where you'd like to have us have a dinner, let us know, get in touch with us, and we'd love to do these around the states at places that you love that want to help support this. It's not going to be a hard fundraising ask. It's just going to be a chance to get together, have dinner. That doesn't mean we won't make an ask, but the purpose of it is to get people together, have a nice dinner, support a local business, and have good conversation. So,
yeah, we'll be down in Leonardtown in February, so it'd be great to meet up with some folks down there. Around our event at the library. Maybe we could get together for a coffee or go out for a meal after the conversation at the library. So Southern Maryland, I haven't been down there yet for the campaign. It's one of the few parts of the state I haven't been to yet for the campaign. I actually haven't been to MoCo yet. I haven't been to Montgomery County yet since I joined the ticket. So would love to do something in Montgomery.
We'll have to take care of that. So one of the things we're working on for 2026 is a whole bunch of events. We're going to do things like our library. We're going to continue our small table library meetings. We're going to go west, east, north, south. We're going to go to the blue parts, the red parts, the purple parts. We're going to go all over. 2026 is good. You're going to see us all around. One thing we're encouraging folks to do is to invite us. Part of the reason that Owen was out in LaVale is because they invited us to come out and talk to them about what was going on there. So if you want us to come to your area, let us know. We'll set up a time to come to a library. We can set up a dinner. We can set up a coffee, whatever. We want to talk to people who have issues, want to share them, and want to bring the campaign to their neighbors, to their friends, to their family. So let us know. We'll be having more of that coming in 2026. But this was a great event to kick off the month. Owen, why don't you take us to the next topic, which is public financing? And I got this slide here that's got some of our numbers on it, and I wanna have you take us through that. You worked really hard on this month, and so take it away.
Yeah. So the way we're looking at our fundraising, to get to the public match, we need 1,500 individual donors who are citizens and permanent residents of Maryland to donate a total of at least $120,000. And so right now we're focusing on folks that we know personally for the most part. And that has helped us get to over 5% of our goal for match eligible donors. That's where you see that 84 number in the bottom left, almost $5,000, which is a little bit under 5%, which means that we're getting a lot of small dollar donors. A lot of people were vibing with that $5 Fridays ask. Sometimes you ask for 5, people want to give 10 or 20. But we have a lot of folks who don't have it in their budget to write a big check for politics. And so we appreciate those folks a lot for being first-time donors. The next ring is going to be peer-to-peer fundraising. People who have contributed, and really the maximum is $250. So after someone gives that or gives whatever they can afford, then the next step is for them to get their networks engaged, to start reaching out to their friends. And so we're going to be developing some tools, templates and some suggested wording that you can use when you send that text message or send that email or make that phone call. Just a few days ago, we were talking about this with our campaign team, and I received an out of the blue request. Somebody was running for some office in DC. I had met this person who was asking me, a couple of times, and kudos to that person for downloading all of their email contacts and sending out this request. I mean, that's one way to go about it, but it's not the most relational way. And so we really want to develop some skills in which people learn how to do grassroots fundraising, because once you learn how to do it, then you can do it not just for our campaign, but for your campaign or your friend's campaign, for your nonprofit, for your Baltimore community fridge, for mutual aid projects, for an organization that you really believe in. And so learning capacity building is not a side effect of this campaign. It's really one of the foci of this campaign. So moving to the top right corner, that 4,825, based on the various tiers of per dollar match, would work out to $26,000. So a significant amount of money that can really help us start to be viable towards meeting our goals for this campaign. And then in the bottom right, you see how many days we have I actually hadn't seen this number until just now, Andy. So it makes me feel determined, but also, there's multiple clocks ticking with this campaign, right? There's the clock ticking to the Green Party primary. There's the clock ticking, to the deadline for submitting for public matching financing. There's early voting. There's election day. So keeping all these, clocks ticking in my head at the same time, is a challenge, but it's one I'm up for.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to surprise you with my fancy infographic on the call, but I thought it was good to have it in some way that we could keep. And I think we're going to keep updating these numbers, so that people can see the progress. The thing, I mean, I like the 4.1 and the 5.6%. That is good for our first month, just reaching out to our contacts. And that is not hard asks. That is, there's a group more of folks that we can reach out to. I think we are going to be in good shape for that first time where we have to show our work and show our numbers in January. We're not going to get there all right away and quickly. I think the big campaigns that are running as Democrats and Republicans have the opportunity to use the mainstream media and things like that, and people understand the concept of donating to that kind of campaign in order to get public financing. We have to teach people to think about funding third parties in a way that oftentimes gets ignored in third-party discourse. Too many people in third parties are upset about the power that money has on politics, so they don't focus on raising that money. And that is an understandable approach, but it is one that is not going to work. If our analysis is right about the effect that big money has on politics and the effect that big money has on water bills and stadiums and all of those different things, we have to have some resources in order to fight against those people and represent the people who feel left behind. So this part of the campaign is about building out that capacity. I'm really excited about this number in the top right, the potential matching funds. I think this really shows the power of using this type of system in order to be able to use public dollars that come from bad politicians who have to pay fines and fees in order to have the kind of money that we would never be able to have otherwise. Extrapolate that out. Imagine that we get to $120,000. We're looking at $800,000 that a Green Party campaign would have in August of 2026 going into the general election. That's the kind of thing we haven't seen in Maryland in a long time. That's the kind of thing that can reach a lot of voters and can show folks that the two-party system is a trap, that billionaires run both parties, and that we need a people's party like the one that we're building. So thank you for doing these numbers. Thank you for Owen is taking the lead on a lot of this fundraising stuff while I'm working on some other things. I'm going to catch up this month, I promise. But Owen has done a lot to make sure that these numbers look really good and to make sure that we have a system in place to keep pushing. So I'm excited to see where this goes. And as a reminder, here's how your donation grows. $5 becomes $40. So if you got $5 on a Friday to spend because times are tough and eggs are expensive and water is expensive and the Orioles are charging you more and everywhere you turn, more and more money is coming out of it, give us $5. It'll turn into $40. If you got $250 lying around, we'll take that too. That turns into $800. It gets us closer to the goal. And each one of these has a story that we will be telling over time about this. So, are we good on public finance, Owen?
I'll just add, Andy, you mentioned that if we hit our goal and we're getting that $700,000 or $800,000 check from the state of Maryland, right now we have send us your questions and we'll answer them on the air. At that point, we're going to be soliciting, send us your ideas for billboards, right? We'll be able to do this show on a much bigger platform, on billboards that drivers across the state will see. We'll be able to be on radio, we'll be in newspapers, and we'll be able to hire activists who are doing good work in their communities to also connect that work to this campaign. And so that's where this money goes. And thank you so much for your support.
I can't wait to see us up on a big billboard at like Camden Yards using that taxpayer dollars to stream our show. I don't know if Wes Moore and his guy at the Stadium Authority who is going to like that too much, but we'll see what we can make happen. And maybe at the minor league, maybe one of those minor league stadiums, we can be like, here's $1,000 or something, put us up on the billboard in Frederick. But
absolutely.
I'm excited about that. Billboards were one of the greatest things that happened during the Jill Stein campaign, and I would love it if we could have billboards all over the state so people know the two-party system is a trap. Billionaires run both parties, and you do have a choice. You do have an alternative. So, all right, moving on. This live stream is a thing that we put a lot of time and effort into this month. I'm really excited about the work that we're doing, and I think it's going to be an important part of our platform going forward. Third parties do not have the kind of media access in order to tell their stories and shape their narratives that the other parties have. And so I think what we are doing here is creating our own means of storytelling, our own means of audience interaction, and our own means of platforming some really important people that are doing tremendously good work. So I think we've gotten a good cadence on this. We've been thinking about what works and what doesn't. We've been doing good stories on things to watch that are triggering MPIA, or that are helping to, get MPIA requests filed, that are putting real pressure on folks, and that are getting stories out there that need to be told. We're also having a time to do these deep dives on our platform, and a time to be able to have the conversations with the people like Lawrence, Taylor, and Heroi, who came on this month and told us amazing stories about on-the-ground activism they are doing that would benefit from having a multi-party system to have their back, because neither Democrats or Republicans want the liberatory, people-based work that they're trying to do. So this live stream has been a great opportunity for us. I think we started it out. I don't know if we knew how it was going to go, but I think I'm now very convinced that video and a platform like this is a key means of us spreading our message, telling the world what we're about, and getting new audiences and new interaction. So I'm excited about it. It's going to grow as we get into 2026. I think we're going to take a couple of weeks off at the end of this month, a few shows in December, and then we'll be back in January when the General Assembly session starts, really ready to go and really ready to bring the good analysis, the good commentary, and the good conversation to a wider audience than we'd be able to get if we just relied on the mainstream media to give us this kind of platform.
Yeah, and I'm looking at these faces and also thinking about the folks that I connected with in Western Maryland earlier this week. And I think we're getting some pretty good coverage. So we've got Lawrence from Baltimore, Taylor, Prince George's, Heroi, Howard, met with folks in Allegheny. So it sounds like we need to talk to some Eastern Shore activists, some Southern Maryland activists, go back to those folks that you were organizing with around another shady stadium deal in Frederick, for example, or folks in Montgomery County who are doing lots of really good work, and continue to lift up the local organizing from all corners of the state, especially in places where people have been taken for granted because, this is a dark blue county or that's a dark red county. And that's the trap that we need to break out of and give folks the power to say, no, I have somewhere else I can go with my vote. What are you going to do for me now?
Totally. Give people like Lawrence and Taylor and Heroi the leverage they need to get the changes they're fighting from. Look, I don't think we're going to suddenly take power, replace the Democrats, and implement the agenda that we've laid out, that these folks have laid out. We understand that this is a struggle. We understand that it is difficult. And Lawrence and I were part of a Baltimore Racial Justice Action panel where we looked at these questions. We looked back on 2025 and forward to 2026 and thought about the way that we can use third parties in order to advance racial justice, in order to give people who are fighting the good fight the leverage they need in order to get the outcomes that they want for their community. At the end of the day, it is not about vanity. It is not about making us, getting us more views on YouTube or even getting us more votes. It's about making it so that LBS can help stop auto-charging young people as adults in the state with the highest youth incarceration state in the country. It's about making giving Taylor the tools that she needs to stop her county council from approving a data center that is going to serve billionaires and pollute her community. And it's about helping Heroi to have the power he needs in order to get his county to invest ethically instead of investing in war, pollution, and the extractive economy. So I'm excited about the opportunity we have to use our platform as leverage in order to get other people to change the material outcomes in their community. And I look forward to bringing on some of those Western Maryland folks to talk about it too, so we can figure out how it is that our platform can help them pay reasonable water bills instead of having to pay $400 or $900 to some corporation that has such a good profit motive that, you know, the British Columbia pension fund is investing in it, right? So all of this connects to stuff on the ground. The live stream is a really important aspect of it. And you know, I was on Edie and Scott's show last night doing a telethon to help raise money for the Illinois Green Party, and they are one of the real sort of pioneers of this Green Party live stream platform. And I think they have shown that it works, that we can build audience, that we can increase reach. And so I think we need keep platforming the folks that we're working with. We need to work with the other people in this network, and we need to make sure we're creating this opportunity for us to tell our stories on our terms and not be dependent on anybody else's camera time or mic time in order to do it.
The other element of this that I'm picking up on is the diversity of tactics, right? So Hero is doing a local ballot initiative at the county level. Taylor's going viral on social media. Lawrence is introducing legislation at the state level. And so this is really a seminar, a public seminar on how to do effective radical or grassroots organizing, you know, from one side of the state to the other. We can all learn from each other.
Absolutely. All right. Keep tuning into the live stream. We know if you're watching, you're already tuning in, but we think this is part of the political work, not just part of our, you know, Owen and I liking to talk. We do like to talk, but this is part of the political work, and we're excited to be doing it. So let's go next to this. We touched on this a little bit, but LaVale.
Yeah. So I think this was right on the border between November and December, but let's keep it in November. You know, this was something, you know, I think you connected me with some of these folks, and, you know, they come from, you know, different life experiences. They have different skill sets, complementary skill sets, different social networks. And so when you get folks like that together with shared values around a table at a local fast food joint, you know, in the dark winter night, good things are going to happen. And so there was a lot of listening on my end. I think, you know, the calendar invite I sent them was Owen listens to y'all, and that's really what it was. I wasn't there to sell them on the campaign. They were already supportive because of the connections that you had made out there in Allegheny County, Andy. But I was learning a lot about the issues, you know, really good conversations with Rebecca about how food and music bring people together. Learned a lot about fracking from Michelle, not just the traditional kind of sustainability concerns, but, you know, we were talking earthquakes, we were talking radioactivity, we were talking septic. So there was a lot of good stuff there. And, you know, David is so involved with this water issue and so many others, and has such a depth of knowledge about local communities. We were talking about transportation. Used to be able to take a train from Cumberland to Baltimore down to DC, and now folks in this part of the state that there's not as many new jobs being created there as other places. The population is not growing there the way it is in other places at a time when, you know, they need public transportation and connections to other parts of the state and other parts of the tri-state region the most. You know, the opposite is happening, and they actually have less access to mobility than they did in years past. So it was a really wide-ranging conversation. And then, of course, you know, we talked about our cats and our pets and brother-in-law's tractors. I mean, I don't have a brother-in-law, but my sister-in-law doesn't have a tractor, but she does have cats, right? So, you know, we were able to also have a really good time, and we can, you know, I felt like I walked away from that conversation with 3 new friends, not 3 new supporters from the campaign, right? And knowing that I can go into that space, and that's kind of understood that this is about building networks and relationships and friendships that will live on, hopefully for many years beyond the next 11 months. Like, the point of me going out there was not to get 3 votes or 3 volunteers or 3 donations. It was about building for the long haul movement that we need in order to bring justice, peace, democracy, and ecology to our state and to our world.
Yeah, and I think so often we think of political work as, I don't want to go to that place unless 1,000 adoring fans are in an arena cheering for me and holding up my picture or something. Like, I don't think that happens for most people who aren't running for president in a movie. But like, I think that one of the most important things that we do is have these very small table conversations where we listen to people who are doing work, living life, and have things to share with us. And so I'm excited in 2026 to drive out there, to go out there several times, and to go where people ask us to go. And whether it is a library or a park or a Wendy's in LaVale, right? Like, we want to go to these places, we want to talk to folks, and we want to make sure we're building the connections with people in order to have the kind of experience that you had this weekend, and bring back an ability to do a whole one of our featured stories on something that you learned out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Keep doing the good work out there, and Michelle, Rebecca, and David. We got your back, and we'll be showing up for you, and we know that's mutual. That's solidarity.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about one last thing that happened in November.
Where's the applause for this?
Okay, I got you.
We haven't had any. Just because we don't have guests doesn't mean we can't applaud.
We'll do it again. Excellent. So what is happening here is, and we've hinted at this and we've teased at it a little bit, but I think we're ready to go official with it and to talk about it. So we have one of our core campaign goals is to open up access to the Maryland public television debates so that more candidates are able to participate in them. Right now, Maryland Public Television hosts debates, and they say that they're only going to host debates for people that have for candidates and third parties that have more than 10% in the polls. In 2022, a group of small party candidates petitioned MPT in order to try to allow them into the debate. MPT said no, and so we've decided that we're going to take some other approaches to this. And so what we have worked on, and we'll get into more details about who's involved and all that, but there's a bill that is going to be introduced in the Maryland General Assembly that conditions Maryland Public Television's funding on them opening up the debate stage to all candidates. This is a really good way to address this problem, because even if we were to get them to agree to the petition and they signed it, that is not going to do anything for future generations. Future generations would have to fight, they'd have to petition, they'd have to do all of that. We think this should be a process that is easy. If you're on the ballot in the general election and taxpayer funded television is hosting a debate, then everybody who's on the ballot in the general election for a statewide office should be on the stage. This bill is going to be a big focus of what we put our attention on in Annapolis this session. I will be down there for opening day. We will be talking to folks as much as we can, and we will be framing a lot of other issues through the importance of having a multi-member debate in the general election. Look, at the end of the day, the mechanism that we're using is a little bit harsh, right? It is telling him it is a threat to defund Maryland Public Television unless they agree to open up their debate stage to all candidates who are on the ballot in the general election for a statewide office that they host a debate for. It's not the most subtle, it's not the most diplomatic of mechanisms. It might be the opposite of that. But I think it's a really important conversation to have, and it's really only a problem for Maryland Public Television if they fight this. I would tell anybody who's thinking about this right now that the easiest path forward is to not fight this. But it's sort of like quicksand. If you start fighting against this bill, I imagine you're going to find yourself in a position that you don't want to be in, defending values that you don't want to defend. And we might find out that some of the donors that are those big foundations that are behind Maryland Public Television are the ones that are pushing them and the politicians to do this. So I'm excited about this. It's going to be a big issue for us going into the General Assembly. And while the mechanism feels coercive. I ultimately think that this bill is good for Maryland, good for voters, good for public television, and good for MPT specifically, because I think if we have more people watching debates, more people are going to become members of MPT. And I think it's good for democracy. And that's ultimately the reason we're doing it. Surely it's good for us. It's nice for us to have a bill that would require us to be allowed on the stage. I think surely it's good for MPT because more people will be watching. But the most important thing is that this is a core democratic value of the campaign, that debate is an important part of democracy. And we've got a bill in Annapolis that we have helped to get drafted and put in that allows us to raise this issue during the 90-day legislative session that starts July 14th. So I'm excited about this. You're going to hear a lot more about it. We've moved it beyond a petition to the place where a delegate is putting in a bill about it.
Yeah, I think folks in, senators and delegates in the General Assembly and decision makers at Maryland Public Television have a pretty clear choice. Allow Maryland voters to decide with a well-informed choice based on a debate in front of an audience on a platform that is dedicated to public education, whose positions, whose values, and whose presentation most aligns with what they want to see for the future. Or they can continue to limit the debate based on fairly arbitrary editorial standards that exclude the best ever performing third party or independent candidate for governor in the 20th century or in the 21st century and most of the 19th century. Those editorial standards aren't based on science, aren't based on a vote by Marylanders on who they want to see included or not. That's an arbitrary editorial standard, and this legislation challenges that arbitrary editorial standard in a way that increases inclusion, enhances the debate, and expands public education to include all of the candidates in the general election. And I think it's important to distinguish here. Andy and I are not talking about the primary elections, which can have 15, 20 people. The barrier to entry for a primary is very low. You basically file. Maybe you pay a small filing fee if you want to be a candidate, even for governor or U.S. senator, but in a primary. But in a general election, independent candidates and third-party candidates have to work really, really hard to get on the ballot. And they need lots of people collecting signatures, or they need to be the next in line after a successful campaign that's gotten over 1%. It is not easy for an independent or third-party candidate to earn their spot on the general election. And it's not easy, of course, for a Democrat or Republican. They need to win their primary, which sometimes is more contested than others. This year, the Democratic primary for governor might not be that contested. So when we say that qualifying for the general election ballot should be the criteria for determining who's in and who's out, that is not arbitrary. That's based on tens of thousands of signatures in the case of independent voters, or signatures or votes in the case of third parties, or primary votes in the case of Maryland Democratic and Republican candidates. So there is a clear and democratic standard for including all candidates in the debate stage for the general elections.
Right. And the State Board of Elections has already decided and legislated a criteria for determining who a legitimate, viable candidate that voters get to engage with is. It's called ballot access. They have laws about it. And for the governor's race, I don't think there's ever been more than 5 or 6 people that have ever qualified for one of those ballots. I think 5 occurred in 2022. I think that was a high watermark for like 100 years or something like that. So we're not talking about, like, nobody is going to go through the process it takes to get on a general election gubernatorial ballot just so they can get some time on MPT answering questions with other politicians. Just like the state of Maryland has determined the criteria. We should use that criteria, and we should make sure that the taxpayer-funded entity is using that criteria, not the criteria that the politicians who give them their budget and the foundations who give them their donations want them to use. Look, we know that the two parties don't like having third parties in debates, because we understand what happened when Ross Perot was in the debate. When Ross Perot was in the debate in the 1990s, people wanted to vote for Ross Perot, and the two parties realized at the time that they needed to clamp down on that type of thing and make sure that the lesser evil framing was the best, that was all that was being presented. And we need to challenge that, not just for ourselves, but for future generations, so that they have access to the debate stage, so that Marylanders can hear their ideas. I don't think if we get on the debate stage, suddenly politics is going to fall apart in Maryland. Wes Moore is a very competent guy, and whatever cold gruel the Republicans put on stage is also going to be a very competent person, right? Like, they can handle these multi-party debates, but what we can't handle is Marylanders not hearing all of their choices, because when Marylanders don't hear all their choices, they're going to be disappointed with the well-polished guy and the cold gruel, and they're going to stay home. They're not going to vote, and they're going to drop out of politics. We think this is an antidote to that. We think it's good for us, good for Maryland, good for public television, and good for democracy.
Yeah. So write to your legislator if you're a Marylander. Write to your state delegate and delegates and senator. Tell them to support this bill. And if you're a Maryland Public Television member, or you know someone who is, you can contact them directly and you can sign our petition. So there's something for everyone to do. This is not a passive topic that we're discussing. This is a very active one. Please get involved. Sign that debate petition, contact your legislators. We'll be having some more direct tools coming out in the coming weeks to inform those emails going to your legislators. But let's start grassroots and get the momentum going heading into session that starts in just a few weeks.